Hello. The historical figure that I'm going to present on today is Susan Brownell Anthony. She was a women's rights activist as well as an abolitionist and helped pave the way for some of the freedoms that women experience today. So Susan B. Anthony was born February 15th, 1820 in Adams, Massachusetts, and she died March 13th, 1906 in Rochester, New York. She was raised in a Quaker family, and because she was raised in that environment, her life was really focused on the equality in others and that everyone was equal in God's eyes. So this inspired her to be that social reformer for women and people of color. She also was in a large family, and she went to a boarding school in Philadelphia. But she wasn't able to finish her education because her family farm met an economic downturn, and she had to come back and help her family try to save their farm. So to do that, she began teaching in a New York Quaker boarding school. She taught from 1837 to 1845. And then she worked her way up to being a headmistress of a school. And this is really one of the points in her life where she was inspired, because she realized that women teachers made less than male teachers, even though they were teaching the same subjects and or the same age range of children. So that really inspired her to push for that equality when it came to equal pay for women and men. She was a member of several prominent organizations. She was a president of the National Women's Suffrage Association, and she participated in those from 1892 to 1900. And this association helped to lay the groundwork for the 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote. She unfortunately didn't get to see that 19th Amendment passed. She passed away before that was ratified, but it is also known as the Susan B. Anthony Amendment because she was so instrumental in helping women gain the right to vote. Also, she was part of the American Anti-Slavery Society. She was a paid agent for them, and so she would go around New York and do speeches and bring attention to abolition and the anti-slavery movement. It didn't give me an end date, but she began that paid tenure with them in 1856. She also was a co-founder of the Women's Loyal National League, and she did that from 1863 to 1864. So this also helped to draw attention to slavery. It brought petitions up. They would go and talk to people and try to really drum up that support to pass those anti-slavery laws. And then she was also a member, a co-founder of the American Equal Rights Association, and she participated in that association from 1866 to 1869. So Susan B. Anthony has a lot of honors that she received, but unfortunately most of them were done posthumously. The main one being that passage of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. She also helped with passing the 13th Amendment, which was the one that abolished slavery. She assisted with securing equal property rights for women, as well as giving women the ability to divorce, which at that time was seen as very controversial, and she was seen as a detriment to what traditional marriage was considered at the time. She also helped found several of those organizations that I talked about to bring about that social change. And she was the first woman who was on any of the U.S. currency. So she was on the Susan B. Anthony coin in the 1970s. So Susan also worked alongside with Elizabeth Cady Stanton. So she was very instrumental in helping bringing about women's rights. They were actually friends most of their lives, and shared that common goal of achieving rights for all. And she also was friends with Frederick Douglass. They oftentimes worked together, but also they butted heads at times because Susan B. Anthony actually was, pioneering women's rights, and that did mean, you know, enslaved women's as well, where Frederick Douglass was focused just on the slavery component. So sometimes they interconnected and then sometimes they butted heads, but they actually forged a very good friendship in their lifetime. Some of the hobbies that Susan B. Anthony enjoyed, she loved riding horses, and that's a little known fact about her, but she loved to be outside riding horses. Teaching was in her blood. She loved to teach others, and I think that was very evident with her going and doing all of the speeches that she would do across the country. She loved to educate others about inequalities and try to solve those problems that the United States was facing. She wrote many books and articles in regards to women's rights as well as abolition, and she was instrumental in that. And then she really did love to bring about awareness. And so she traveled all over the U.S. giving speeches. She actually never married, and so she literally just committed her life to public service. So when I had to think about a job that I think she would apply for and that she would be great at, I immediately thought of a public service person, such as a politician, because she really did seek out ways to make those changes. And at that time, you know, it wouldn't have been acceptable for her to be in a public office. But now I could see her doing that public service job and doing very well at it. She definitely had a heart for people and a heart for equality and rights. So when I think about the 5 themes that come to my mind when I think about Susan B. Anthony, they are social movements. She was very instrumental in creating those social movements. She actually went and voted in an election when it was illegal to do so, and was tried and convicted, but refused to pay the fine. And so it was eventually dropped. So she had a way of organizing people into those movements. She would go around and speak and create petitions and things like that to really drive people to that common goal. Also, gender inequality. I did talk about it earlier, but Susan B. Anthony really saw the gender inequality that came with pay when she was working as a teacher, along with also like women not having the ability to initiate a divorce and things like that. She really wanted for women to have the same rights that men did. And then racial inequality. Because she was raised in that Quaker environment, believed that all people were equal under God's eye. And so slavery to her was an abomination to God, and she wanted to end that. Feminism, definitely she signifies feminism for me, because she didn't just want women to have the right to vote. She wanted them to be able to divorce and hold public office and be paid the same. And so when I think of her, I think that she is one of those founding mothers of feminism. And then civic awareness. Like, Susan B. Anthony definitely understood that it was up to her and us as people to be aware of our civic duties. Go out and vote. Have the ability to, you know, make those changes and social changes and equalities. And so for me, civic awareness was one of the more prominent themes that I align with Susan B. Anthony. I realized when I was doing this report that, you know, I wouldn't be where I am today without her fighting that good fight. And I look at it, I have a daughter, and it inspires me that she was able to make such positive changes by being peaceful about it and just bringing awareness. And I'm grateful that me and my daughter have the ability to be free and participating in the country that we live in. Thank you.